Broadcasting from the ARN Racing Studios in Southern California, a turn for media company, ARN Los Angeles. This is ARN, the American Racing Network, the Motorsports Authority. Now,
drivers, start your engine!
You're shifting gears on ARN with Alan Bailey.
Well, there goes the neighborhood.
You name it, we got it. NASCAR.
He's going to do it. He's going to win the race and the NASCAR Sprint Cup Championship. California's Kevin Harvick does it. Holy cow!
IndyCar.
Will Power is an IndyCar champion.
Thank you for calling.
Drag racing.
Jason line red lights and gives it away. Erica Ender-Stevens becomes the 17th champion in the history of funny car with a hammer down throw ride.
Supercross.
Ken Roxon to the finish line. He wins the season opener here at Angel Stadium.
And so much more. So get ready. You're shifting gears on ARN with Alan Bailey.
That you are. Welcome on in. You're shifting gears right here on ARN at the Alan Bailey on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, the phone number 720-600-RACE. That is 720-600-7223. Standard messaging and data rates do apply on that. I want to get you involved in this one. Big story, big bombshell dropped in the NASCAR and in the motorsports community and in the sports world in general, I can say, after seeing ESPN's coverage for the last few hours or so. Jeff Gordon making the announcement early this morning that he will retire from full-time NASCAR racing following the 2015 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series season. Translation, we're entering his first full season in NASCAR in 2016. Well, he could run some cup races, he could run Xfinity, he could run some trucks, he could run some Baja 1000 racing, if you believe what he said in the teleconference earlier. Who knows? It's a big question mark of what he's going to do after this season, but we're going to take a look back at his career, some of his numbers, some of the stats on him. Just incredibly mind-boggling. We'll get into that. Brian Vickers will be racing in 2015, which is something that we were kind of iffy about. He'll be racing at the third race of the season in Las Vegas. He will miss the Daytona 500 and the second race of the year at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. We know that Michael Waltrip will be driving the number 55 ARN's Toyota for the Daytona 500. As far as the second race of the year in Atlanta, not sure who's going to be driving the car at that point. NASCAR came out this morning and said, yesterday, and said that Brian Vickers is eligible for the chase if he qualifies for it, because if you do not attempt all the races, you are ineligible to qualify for the chase. You're basically kicked out of it, but NASCAR holding the right to basically allow drivers to do that, or to qualify for the chase if there's extreme circumstances. They went ahead and pardoned, if you will, Tony Stewart for missing a handful of races last summer because of the tragic events up in New York State, and now basically they've granted that pardon to Brian Vickers because of medical conditions in the beginning season, in the off season. We'll get into his condition. We'll give you an update on him as well. John Force Racing announced their crew chief lineup. It's very interesting, kind of a personnel shakeup because a handful of people left. Some of the crew members left. Big question mark as to what was going on with John Force Racing entering the 2015 season a few months ago. They jumped ship. Now John and John Force Racing have kind of scrambled in order to get things back in order over there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Lots of stuff going on in Supercross, actually. We'll update Justin Bretton's injury. Remember, he was the one who got hurt and kind of had to sit out Anaheim 2 over the weekend. We'll go ahead and talk about that. The track map for Oakland for this weekend in Supercross is up on ARNrace.com. I encourage you to go check it out. And while you're there, go ahead and check out the GoPro videos from Ken Roxon's bike in his winning run in Anaheim 2. Truly, truly awesome, to say the very least. Also, you could check out the video with Trey Kennard and Chad Reed with that accident that happened on the racetrack, and really give me your take on what you think happened there, whose fault that was. That kind of got interesting. I want to go ahead and get into that in a little bit here. Also, dramatic changes coming to NASCAR souvenir sales. Trailers are gone. trailers are gone. They're not going to be hauling your favorite driver's trailer to every single racetrack, selling things out of the side of the trailer like they were and that they have been doing for the better part of the last 20 years. We'll get into that. Also, a handful of NASCAR and IndyCar stars are taking to Daytona this weekend for the 24-hour race. We'll go ahead and talk about that in a little bit. Also, Rocky Boot extended their partnership with Don Schumacher Racing. Jim Dunn signed with ALOO Drink as their primary sponsor, and a lot of stuff coming out as far as what this new Charger body is doing in the NHRA, because Don Schumacher Racing had a funny car test with the new Dodge body, and now we're kind of getting a look at what that car is doing and how it's performing in real conditions on the racetrack and how well that funny car gets down the strip. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. But obviously, I kind of want to start here with Jeff Gordon. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this is probably the coolest thing that I'm ever going to have happen to me. Truly, truly it is. I'm going to be talking to one of... Okay, I need to preface this by saying this. I've been doing this whole broadcasting thing for a number of years. I've interviewed tons of people, race car drivers, professional athletes. I've interviewed a number of people, celebrities and things like this. I've talked to them, comedians. I've talked to Olympic gold medalists. So I don't exactly get flustered whenever I talk to somebody, whether it's just in person or on the air, like an interview like what we're doing here today. But this person actually has me a little flustered because he's a person that I've honestly looked up to throughout my entire life and my entire broadcasting professional career, and I'm a little nervous to be interviewing him on the show today because he's a little intimidating. He's not just really good at what he does, he's a doctor. Of all things. Dr. Jerry Punch from ESPN going to be joining us in about 30 minutes, a little under 30 minutes actually, to talk about Jeff Gordon's retirement and a little bit of NASCAR hot stove talk, because things are getting interesting in the world of NASCAR, especially now with Jeff Gordon stepping aside. The NASCAR community has reacted to Jeff Gordon stepping aside, and that's where I want to start, of all things, because this is where I think everybody kind of landed first thing as soon as we all heard this come down at about 8 o'clock local time, which was about 11 a.m. Eastern. Everything kind of started to hit the fan this morning, and really, Jeff Gordon tweeted it out at 7 a.m. local time here in Southern California, letting the team know that it will be my final year competing for a championship, and it's a photo of him in a suit and tie standing in front of about 100 people in the Hendrick Motorsports 24 shop, and you could tell it's a little emotional. Jeff Gordon tweeted out the following: "I'm proud of the career I had, and I knew this day would come, but I'll be involved with Team Hendrick for many years to come." Also, Jimmy Johnson retweeting what Jeff Gordon tweeted out. "Crazy, you're the man." Dale Earnhardt Jr., his other teammate, took to Twitter, tweeting out, "Hard to imagine this is Jeff Gordon's last full-time season. Tons of respect for him and what he's accomplished thus far. A total professional." Couldn't agree more. Joey Logano put this out on Twitter. "Grew up a Jeff Gordon and Mark Martin fan. Been awesome to race both of them for wins. Look forward to one more year in 2015. Regan Smith, NASCAR Xfinity driver, tweeted out this: "Very few have done as much for our sport as Jeff Gordon. Nothing but respect for one of the greatest that's ever raced." AJ Allmendinger tweeted out this: "I feel so lucky to have raced against my idol and favorite driver growing up, Jeff Gordon. Ready for one more year against you." James Busher tweeted out a photo of him and Jeff talking in what appears to be a media center with their fire suits on. James tweeting out, "Thanks for all the advice over the years, Jeff Gordon. One of my heroes growing up. Best luck in 2015. Danica Patrick tweeting out, "Crazy to hear that Jeff Gordon is retiring. What an amazing career. Glad to have gotten to race with him." And this one is probably the coolest one. It's Ray Evernham and Jeff Gordon. And Ray tweeted this out as a picture of him and Jeff outside of a dune buggy. And Ray's got on this really cool bandana, and they both have do-rags around their neck for the sand. And obviously they had just gotten done with a run, and they're standing outside of the car. Ideally, it's a white with a blue 24 on the side. Very cool. Ray tweeting out, "Congrats, bud." Jeff Gordon, "Looking forward to seeing you kick butt one more time. Looking forward to 2015. And no, they're not reuniting. Let's not start that rumor mill again. Clip Boyer, this was one of the funnier ones. I've had a lot of good times with Jeff Gordon-Webbs, and one poop emoticon, one. Where to think that all of the other greats, there soon won't be there. This one coming from Kyle Busch. Jeff Gordon was my childhood hero. Really going to cherish racing against him in his final season. Hashtag JG final lap. And this one coming from Bobby Labonte. I don't tweet much. I will say that I have always been a Jeff Gordon fan and proud to know such a great ambassador to the sport of NASCAR. Hashtag Team 24. And this one coming from Tony Stewart. Can't imagine being at the track without Jeff Gordon. I don't think I will have ever had the opportunity without Jeff paving the way. That one, I think, says it all right there from Tony Stewart. And by the way, Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon, they're the same age. I'm just throwing it out there. And I think Jeff is in far better shape physically than Tony Stewart. I'm just saying. Smoke, I love you. I'm not trying to push retirement on you, bud. I'm just saying, bud. You're the same age, and Jeff looks a lot better than you do. Well, I'm saying, I love you both, but I'm just saying. But you look at it this way. When Jeff Gordon got into the sport in 1992, he drove a Cup car in Atlanta for the final race of the 1992 season, full-time in 1993. Everybody who was racing in NASCAR Sprint Cup Series competition, then Winston Cup racing, every single one of them were mid-30s, they were wearing cowboy hats, they had cowboy boots on, and they had mustaches and facial hair for days. He's a 21-year-old kid who was just getting into the sport. He ran what was Busch Series at the time, now Xfinity Series, and he was tearing it up in the Xfinity Series, and he was driving for Bill Davis Racing, and really, he was looking to go Cup racing, and this guy named Ray Evernham was going to be the crew chief, and Rick Hendrick was going to take a chance on this kid, even though they weren't sure if he had the gusto for it, and really, he was a driver who was young, he was skinny, he was young, he was baby-faced. Dale Earnhardt Sr. coined him Wonder Boy because he was a boy. He was a kid. All these other drivers were in their mid-30s to late 30s. Some of them were in their early 40s when they started racing in NASCAR. And Jeff Gordon's 43. He's going to be 44 this year, and he's hanging it up. That's saying something because most guys when Gordon started were 44 when they started, let alone retiring. And Jeff was a 21-year-old kid who was getting into it, and a lot of people said, well, this young kid thinks he can come in here and just go ahead and take all the veterans. Yeah, good luck with that. But really, Jeff stuck in it. It took him a year to pick up a couple wins. His first win was at the Coke 600, what is now the Coke 600, the World 600 at the time, and he picked up the win at Charlotte there, the longest race of the year. A few months later, he went to Indianapolis for the first time with everybody else in NASCAR and picked up the very first win in the Brickyard 400. Both of these are pretty big deals in our sport. Very big deals. He won two of the biggest races right out of the gate. From there, everything just kind of escalated. He got the 2 wins in 1994. 95, he ended up winning the championship. 7 wins in 95. And then in 96 through about 99, everything just blew up. 96, he won 10 races. Finished second in the standings to Terry Labonte. 97, 10 wins again. Won the championship. 1998, 13 wins in 33 races. Are you kidding me? Over a third of the races went to Jeff Gordon. Okay, do me a favor. Go out there. Run 2 races, then give one to Jeff. Run 2 races, then give it to Jeff. Run a race, then give it to Jeff. 2 races, Jeff. 2 races, Jeff. A race, Jeff. A race, Jeff. A race, Jeff. That's what was going on in 1998. Are you kidding me? That's incredibly insane. The following year, in 1999, he got a crew chief swap. Him and Ray parted ways. And in 1999, he only had 7 wins. He finished 6th in the standings with 7 wins. Are you kidding me? I asked AJ Allmendinger if he's okay with that. Hey, AJ, would you like to have 7 wins in a single season and finish 6th in the point standings? Is that okay with you? That was an off season for Jeff Gordon. Then in 2000, 3 wins. Finished 9th in the standings, admittingly. A lot worse. 2001, 6 wins. Won the championship again. Then from there, he went on a string of winning 3 in 2002, 2003. 2004, pretty good year. Finished 3rd. 5 wins that year. 2005, 4 wins. Finished 11th in the standings, not so great. 6th in the standings in 2006, only 2 wins. 2007, 6 wins, finished 2nd in the standings. 2008, no wins, 7th in the standings. Worst year for Jeff Gordon right there in his career. Then in 2009, only a single win, finished 3rd in the standings. Ouch. 2010, winless again, 9th in the point standings. 2011, 3 wins, only 8th in the point standings that year. 2012, he finished 10th in the point standings with 2 wins again. He had a win in 2013, finished 6th in the standings. 2014, a year ago, 4 wins. Hasn't done that since 2005. Finished 6th in the standings, but ultimately he should have finished a lot higher than that because, frankly, he had an incredible season. 2014 and on is going to be kind of as far as where he finished in the point standings, but the win column is there, I believe. But ultimately, you look at what Jeff Gordon has done in his career. He's got 92 victories, 3rd all-time, only behind Richard Petty with 200 and David Pearson with over 105 wins. So, honestly, Jeff Gordon is in that group that I don't want to say it's never going to be reached because it could be in my lifetime, but not by anybody I think that's on the racetrack. Jimmy Johnson probably has the best bet to beat that number, but he's only 4 years younger than Jeff Gordon, and really Jimmy's in that time period, and he's in that area where you have to think, well, how much longer is Jimmy going to do this? And while I'm throwing names into that hat ring, let me throw in Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, Ryan Newman. Yeah, believe it or not, Newman's coming up on 40. He's in that same range. Once you get into your 40s now, you seriously have to stop and think retirement. That's insane to me. That really is. Because at one point in the 90s, it wasn't like that. Jeff Gordon was part of a huge implosion in NASCAR, and I think he's primarily the reason why. That's just my take, though. It's truly insane to think about. It truly is. What we'll go ahead and do now is we'll go ahead and we will take a break. When we come back on the other side, we will talk about a number of things, but namely Jeff Gordon. We're going to hear from him. We're going to hear from Rick Hendrick on what the plans are for 2016 and beyond, and also what led to Jeff Gordon's decision to hang it up after this season. That's where we'll go next on Shifting Gears right here on ARN.
Sick of bad race coverage or none at all from those other networks? Make ARN your one and only for all things motorsports. ARN, the Motorsports Authority.
Hey guys, it's Alan Bailey, and I wanted to tell you about when I first got started in broadcasting. Something that I tried to do was I tried to build my own website with one of these free website builders, and it was really bad. I ended up spending hours and hours working on this site, and I didn't get it the way I wanted. I hated the colors, I hated the options, I hated everything about it, but I needed a website. So reluctantly, I launched the website, and it wasn't good. I didn't get any business or any traction from it. The website was horrible. In order to put a .com on there, I had to pay all these huge fees and all these hidden fees. Once I got past all the fees, it would have been thousands and thousands of dollars for just a very simple website. So I ended up taking it offline. Fast forward years later, I called Apollo Aesthetics. When I was getting ready to build my personal website, I decided to heck with it. I'll spend the money. And I didn't care how much it was, anticipating spending thousands and thousands of dollars. And then, when I got the quote from Apollo Aesthetics, boy was I shocked, because the price was super, super low. Monthly payments with a low down payment. I gotta tell you, I've had such a pleasant experience. I'm not building any other websites. I've learned my lesson. I'm going straight to Apollo Aesthetics so they can build it right and they can do everything that I need. Whether you're looking to build a website, design a logo, figure out your hosting, your emails, and social media accounts, Apollo Aesthetics can help you with all of these, including building a shop for you to sell your product online. Log on to apolloaesthetics.com to request a quote. That's apolloaesthetics.com.
I'm so glad we left that stupid party.
No joke.
Hey, baby, are you an overdue library book? Because you got fine written all over you.
Oh, barf. What about that girl with the hoop earrings?
Ridiculous. When she was dancing...
Megan, look out! Look out!
Oh my God, Becky. Becky, are you okay?
My arm.
I think it's broken. Can you bend it? It's already bent. In the wrong direction. I can't believe this. I'm so sorry. I only had a few drinks. I was just buzzed.
Really? Just buzzed?
Yeah, I swear.
Well, in that case, my arm is fine. Ah, that's better.
You're really okay? You're serious, Becky?
No, genius. I'm not serious.
Ow! My arm, it hurts.
Buzzed driving. Maybe we should stop acting like it's no big deal. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Ad Council, and this station.
Shifting Gears on ARN is powered by Stash Feed. Get the feed. Log on to stashfeed.com to see what you've been missing and get the feed. You're Shifting Gears on ARN. Here's Alan Bailey.
Obviously, the big story of the day is that Jeff Gordon announcing his retirement from NASCAR racing after the 2015 season. Full-time NASCAR racing. He could run some partial schedule stuff. We're not really too sure. I don't even think Jeff is, to be honest with you. He's focused on 2015. One of the people that have reached out to Jeff and have reached out to the community talking about Jeff Gordon and what he's meant, NASCAR chairman and CEO Brian France, who issued this statement earlier today, quote, Jeff Gordon transcends NASCAR and will be celebrated as one of the greatest drivers to ever race. We have enjoyed watching his legend grow for more than 2 decades and will continue to do so during his final full-time season. His prolonged excellence and unmatched class continue to earn him the admiration of fans across the globe. Today's announcement is a bittersweet one. I'll miss his competitive fire on a weekly basis, but I'm also happy for Jeff and his family as they start a new chapter. On behalf of the entire NASCAR family, I thank Jeff for his years of dedication and genuine love for this sport and wish him the very best in his final season. Unquote. That's NASCAR CEO and Chairman Brian France right there on the statement that Jeff Gordon, or on the announcement that Jeff Gordon made earlier today at Hendrick Motorsports. And honestly, we all knew that this was coming. I had a theory that it was going to be after 2016. I thought 2016 was going to be his last season, to be perfectly honest. And the reason I say that is sponsorship commitment. We know for a fact that he has a couple of sponsorship deals that are up in 2016, but again, I don't know what those contracts look like with those sponsorships at Hendrick Motorsports. I don't know if they're for Jeff Gordon to drive a car, if they're for a car to be sponsored. I truly don't know. That's something between the sponsor, Jeff Gordon, and Hendrick Motorsports to figure out, and I'm just kind of an innocent bystander just sitting here flapping my gums. But Jeff Gordon did have a teleconference not too long ago on NASCAR.com, and he very much spelled it out, what led to this decision.
Yeah, you know, this is certainly something that I've been thinking about for years. Rick and I have talked about for a number of years. You know, you're always trying to, when you get to this point in your career, and you've done as much as we've done as a team, of trying to figure out when that right time to step away. I always said that I wanted to step away on my own terms if possible, and I, you know, I want to be competitive out there, and I would hope that I could do that all the way through my final year. And so, you know, this is the right time. I think, you know, it really came you know, clear about halfway through last season that it was definitely going to be. Rick kept talking me into going longer and longer and longer, and I kept saying, no, I think this is the year, no, I think this is the year. And finally, about halfway through last year, I said, no, you know, this is it, boss, and we agreed, and the timing was good for me, good for Hendrick, and other opportunities that are, you know, out in front of us. So, you know, looking forward to spending more time with my family, but most of all, looking forward to just that next chapter of my life, working with Hendrick Motorsports and other partners. Honestly, I thought this was going to happen a couple of years ago, and you know, during the off season, every off season I can think of over the last several years, Rick and I have talked about, you know, our future together, the future of motorsports, you know, Hendrick Motorsports, and then, you know, and I'm so thankful to Rick to have that kind of relationship where we can talk honestly about, you know, things that are happening in the sport and with sponsors and the team and me personally and professionally, and so, you know, I've got such a great friend as well as partner here that we just would talk from time to time, and I really was leaning towards this at the beginning of 14, but it didn't get serious until midway of 14. And it was a combination of things. It wasn't just one thing. It was the back thing played a role. I think that really more just confirmed things for me rather than anything else. And even the great stretch in the run that we had and how good we were last year confirmed things even more for me. I was like, you know what? This is all I could ask for, to be at this point in my career, 20 plus years into my career, and be that competitive week in and week out. I was ready, almost ready to walk away right then, but I wanted to give one more year to my team, to Rick, the sponsors, the fans, my family, and myself. And it just seemed like the timing was right to do those things and start that next chapter. And the next chapter, you can't really start it until you really finalize that decision, and then all of a sudden start to put the pieces together. There's no doubt over the last couple of years I have been faced with those thoughts like Rick Mears was talking about, and I had times when I wasn't having fun leaving the racetrack or showing up to the racetrack. Things weren't going well. But last year changed that for me. It did. It built my confidence up, and I felt like I was as good as anybody out there, or as good as I've ever even been, and that's because of Alan Gustafson, this team, and I feel like that we're going to be able to continue that momentum in 2015. I look forward to that very much. So nothing would make me happier than signing off in this amazing career that I've had at Homestead, and knowing that I went out. Of course, you want to go out on top, but even so, if that's not possible, I want to go out being competitive and going out there and putting on great racing at the top level, all the way to the end, and that's all I ask for. And last year, gave me that inspiration that can happen again this year.
A couple things, a lot of things actually, right there in that statement, right there from Jeff Gordon making the announcement that he's done racing full time after this season, 2015. First off, I love the fact that Rick Hendrick is sitting next to him, breathing heavily into the mic. I thought that was kind of amazing. I don't know what was better, the fact that was going on, or the fact that somebody at NASCAR didn't actually bring his mic down just a little bit. That was great. Second off, lots of information right there. I think that, honestly, if Jeff was having a bad season, he might have just, last season, he might have just hung it up in 14. That was very telling to me. But I think that, like Rick said, I think a big turning point was the fact that they had so many sponsors that were committed to Jeff, and I think the fact that they were all there kind of had Jeff kind of stuck into a corner. And really, I think, from a father standpoint, I think that he truly wanted to have his kids in victory lane with him, to have his kids celebrating in victory lane with him, experiencing their dad winning a race and everything that goes on with that. And I think that his son, I don't know, is quite old enough, but his daughter very much is old enough to remember these sorts of things. And I think after he won at Dover, that really kind of cemented everything, because when he won at Dover, his family was there. The photos that were coming out were him and his family in victory lane. It was in particular his son and his daughter. His wife was there, sure, but I'm willing to bet she was the one taking the pictures. And there were some great shots, and really that put life in perspective for you. Whether you're Jeff Gordon or a random race fan, or if you're a Jeff Gordon hater, that puts life in perspective for you. Heck, Kevin Harvick and his wife, Delana Harvick, they both tweeted out photos of Harvick sitting on the wall, like up against the wall at Homestead after he won the championship, and he tweeted out a photo of him and his son and it was something to the effect of throwing rocks with this little guy waiting against this wall really puts life in perspective, or something of that nature. And it really grasped everything and put everything full circle. Rick Hendrick also made some interesting comments. I want to play this for you now. Rick was talking about just Jeff going into his final season, and in particular, he finished with, hey, what are the plans for 2016 for the 24 car?
Well, it's going to be surely awkward and strange when I walk in the garage area and I don't see Jeff sitting in the 24 car. But at the same time, I'm looking at it like, man, that's a year away. So I want to go out and win the championship with him this year and have the kind of season we had last year. And I just thank him for all he's done to help our company and all the records he's broken, and I look forward to him, helping the company grow. And he's got so much talent in other areas that being a partner, he's going to be just a tremendous asset outside of the car. So it's bittersweet, but I'm just kind of putting off that that he's not going to be in the car, because he's going to be in the car for another year. But I think he said it all. He wanted to do it on his terms. He's just meant so much to me, the sport, the drivers. Young guys owe him so much. He broke a lot of barriers to help people get into the sport, and he's just been an icon in our sport. So I'm anxious to see the next chapter after we win the championship this year. Put a little pressure on him.
I like it.
We're kind of looking at what's down the road a little bit later. Want to kind of focus on Jeff and what he's accomplished, and then we'll, at a later time, we'll kind of focus on who's going to be in the car.
I thought that last part was interesting because, let's be perfectly blunt and perfectly honest with each other. Seriously, think about this. Chase Elliott's going to be driving that 24 car in 2016. There's no way around that. If Rick Hendrick puts anybody but Chase Elliott in that car, he's absolutely insane. And he's not going to make that announcement until it's official. Whether he's going to be driving the 24 car or a different numbered car, really wouldn't surprise me to see him driving the 9 car, for instance. The number 9 is available. It's not being driven it is being driven right now in the Cup Series. So that might happen if Richard Petty will go ahead and let that one loose, and Sam Hornish Jr. But who knows? He could be driving the number 25 next year, which is probably what's going to happen. We don't know. Napa might follow him into the Cup Series. We don't know. All of Jeff's sponsorship might actually stay and just pick up where they left off, more or less, with Jeff, pick up with Chase Elliott. We don't know. The one thing I don't think we're going to see is, I don't think we're going to see Jeff Gordon drive a partial schedule like Mark Martin did a number of years ago, where Jeff runs half the races and Chase runs half the races in the 24 car. We're not going to see that. Go ahead and get that out of your mind right now. I think we're going to legitimately see Jeff hang it up. I don't even think we're going to see him run a partial schedule, to be honest. I don't think we're going to see him run 1 or 2 races in the Cup Series. I think, if anything, we might see him run an Xfinity car here or there, maybe a truck here or there. Who knows? Who knows? It's a giant question mark. We truly don't know, but we'll see. We'll see what happens in 2015 and where that leaves us for 2016. Like Rick said right there, Jeff's going to be in the car in 2015. We have an entire year with Jeff Gordon in the car before we can talk about, well, what's it going to be like when he's not here anymore. Those conversations are going to be taking place all year, no doubt, but we have another 38 weekends with Jeff at the racetrack in the 24 car, and that's something that I'm personally looking forward to. I'll be honest with you. If you're a Jeff Gordon fan, even if you're a NASCAR fan and you have some form of respect for the great drivers of our sport, you're going to try to get out to the racetrack in 2015, because you definitely want to say, I went to blank race where it was Jeff Gordon's final race. That is going to be a big deal in 2015. 2015. So we'll see what happens down the road. What we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll take a break. Jerry Punch scheduled to join us when we get back after this one. He's going to be talking about a number of things, predominantly what's going on with Jeff Gordon with that 24 car, and we're going to just talk NASCAR off-season, silly season notes and things, kind of give a little predictions for 2015. I have some thoughts, and I'm legitimately very nervous. I'm excited, but I'm also nervous. So, I don't know. We'll see how this interview with Jerry goes. Don't go anywhere. You are shifting gears right here on ARN, the Motorsports Authority.
Take ARN anywhere. Download your favorite ARN programs on iTunes. Keyword search ARN and listen online at arnrace.com.
What is one NASCAR Unites wristband capable of doing? It can inspire a child to go farther in school. It can construct a brand new playground for kids who've never had one. It can introduce a child with a serious illness to his or her favorite NASCAR driver.
I'm Tony Stewart. I wear my band to Unite for Kids. Band together with me by logging on to www.nascar.com/unites to pledge your support.
Shifting Gears on ARN is powered by Apollo Aesthetics. Log on to apolloaesthetics.com to get a quote for your new website today. You're shifting gears on ARN. Here's Alan Bailey.
Well, one of the hot-button topics, at least today, breaking news, is that Jeff Gordon going to be retiring from full-time NASCAR Sprint Cup Series competition. On the phone right now, a gentleman that has covered the sport throughout the years, and he's truly one of the best in not only racing, but probably all of sports. Dr. Jerry Punch with ESPN is on the phone with us. Dr. Punch, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Alan. Thanks for the kind words. It's always a pleasure to join you.
Oh, absolutely. And you look at it, your initial thoughts, what did you think when you actually read the headline, Jeff Gordon retiring from full-time NASCAR Sprint Cup Series competition?
Well, I was sad because it's hard to believe that we would have a NASCAR Sprint Cup race without Jeff Gordon in it. He's been around for well over 2 decades. In fact, this will be his 23rd year. And my second thought was, man, I'm old because I did his first race in 1992. I was a pit reporter for ESPN in Atlanta, and when he ran the final race of that season, which was his first start, in Sprint Cup racing. So. But I also knew from being around Jeff and around the team the last few years that this was a discussion that had been ongoing. When is the right time? How long do you stay? What's the situation with his back? He's had back issues in the past, although he had really no serious complaints last year. And he'd always say, well, as long as I'm having fun, I'm going to stay. As long as I'm winning and I'm competitive. Well, he's obviously had a lot of fun last year. He was winning last year. He won 4 races. He's very competitive, scored more points than anyone, had a chance, probably his best chance in the last decade to win a championship. But maybe the timing is such that at age 43, he's got a beautiful wife and small children, and he can say, I have nothing left to prove. It's time to step away.
And you look at it, do you think it is the fact that he had such a great run last season? He was the favorite going into the chase and through much of the chase, but then everything at Texas, everything kind of fell off the wagon, if you will, with everything that happened with Keselowski on that restart. Do you think that it was that and just everything going into Homestead, Jeff kind of said, you know what, I'm good. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to step away full-time. You think it was sort of that, or do you think it is him just going, my back is there. I just want to just go ahead and go out while I'm on top, or a little of both?
Well, I think he was. I think it was a combination of a lot of things, a perfect storm. I mean, you look at the big picture. I think his back was holding its own. I think he was in very good physical shape. This is becoming more and more of a young man's sport because these cars are in this year to come and in the next few years, as they change the rules, these cars are going to become more and more of a handful to drive. They're going to get back to where the driver has to be involved and in driving these cars, and so that's going to change the game a little bit. Remember, it took Jeff quite a while to adapt to the car of tomorrow, the COT car, and because the guys that grew up driving these cars back in the '90s, like when Jeff came along, it was a different animal. You had to unlearn everything you had learned about these cars and then learn to drive this COT car, which is like a school bus with a number on it. And now they've gotten back to a car that's more drivable but also it's more of a handful to drive. So, does he have to relearn his skill? And here's one of the all-time best to ever sit in the seat. Does he have to go back and learn again how to drive these cars? Or has he said, look, I have 92 wins, third all-time in NASCAR history, 4 championships, maybe a 5th in this final year. Probably should have won it a year ago. Most of us at ESPN, most of us in television and that were covering NASCAR believe that he was the guy to beat when the chase began. And also you look at Chase Elliott coming along. Here's an opportunity. Maybe Jeff steps aside and becomes a driver coach mentor for Chase. I mean, Chase's dad, Bill Elliott, we all know what a great driver he was, but Bill hasn't been in a car in almost a decade, other than a few practice sessions here and there, so he really can't do a lot to help Chase, whereas someone like Jeff Gordon, if he becomes a driver mentor, a driver coach, can be in that car on the track at test sessions, and maybe if he runs a limited schedule or picks and chooses some races, and he can be an active force in helping develop maybe this young man who is the next Jeff Gordon.
And you look at it, we're talking with Dr. Jerry Punch, ESPN analyst, by the way, right here on ARN, and you look at it, do you think Jeff Gordon's going to do what Mark Martin did a number of years ago, where he kind of runs about half the races and then somebody else is in the 24 car like Chase Elliott? The timing of it just kind of works out, or do you think that Chase Elliott will get up into the 24 car or a fourth Hendrick car with Gordon running a partial schedule? What do you think Jeff will do in 2016?
I think Jeff will, if he races at all, it'll be just a few events, and I think Chase Elliott will run the full schedule. I think Chase, the plan was for Chase to run last year and this coming year for Junior Motorsports, for Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Rick Hendrick, keep him there, and then the following year he will run full-time in Sprint Cup in 2016. So I think that Chase will run all the races, and Jeff, if he races, I think it would be, a few events where he can pick and choose, maybe the Brickyard 400, which he's obviously had a lot of success at, the Daytona 500. I mean, it's like a PGA golfer who says, okay, my body can't take playing golf every week. I'm going to pick and choose some of the majors. Yeah, I'll be invited back to Augusta, to the Masters. And Jeff will be, obviously, if he can go to the Masters of Motorsports, as the Daytona 500 or the Brickyard, and run some of those. And the good thing about that is that keeps him current as to what's happening with the car. It makes him become even more effective coach for someone like Chase Elliott.
Absolutely. And you look at what Jeff Gordon has done to the sport. I mean, when he started in the early 90s, it was a time when guys were in their 30s, they were wearing cowboy hats and they had cowboy boots on, mustaches, and Jeff Gordon even had the mustache for about a year or so before he shaved it off to try to fit in, and he ushered in a new wave of people, or drivers rather, a new era, where the drivers were younger. Do you think we're going to ever see anybody who's affected the sport that dramatically ever in the future of the sport?
Well, I mean, obviously you look at the decades, and he has had a tremendous impact, especially coming out of the open-wheel ranks of Thursday Night Thunder shows at ESPN Showcase, from Indianapolis Raceway Park, and, how he gets out of a midget or a sprint car, and suddenly he's got a name for himself, and he comes south, and they hooks up with this guy that wants to become a crew chief. His name is Ray Evernham, and suddenly it's magic. You put those guys together, and then Rick Hendrick, and it's just... the story, it was something that they should make a movie about, about his life and how it all came together, and how he started out driving for an underfunded team that had Fords, and Ford wouldn't commit to him, and suddenly here comes Rick Hendrick along, and Chevy says, you're going to be our guy. So Chevy steals like this guy who is the future superstar right out from under Ford's nose, and the rest is history. I think that, he's had a tremendous impact now. I remember him sitting on my sofa when I was living in Florida, and during a December test, he was like 18 years old, and all the big heavyweights of NASCAR Ford were down there testing. The Wood brothers were there, and Bud Moore was there, and all the big Ford teams. Well, he was going to drive back then it was called a Nationwide or a Busch Series car for Bill Davis Racing, a small little team, and they all came over to my house after the test that evening to cook out. And he's sitting on the edge of the sofa, timid, he's not old enough to have a cold beer with the rest of the drivers that were there, so he's having a ginger ale. And I remember sitting and talking to him about who he was and where he'd come from. he looked like he should have been going to bed and getting up and going to school the next day. He was so young looking, but that's where he came from, and that's the commitment he made, and what an incredible career on the track and off, and what he has done with his foundation, all the people he's helped over the years. He certainly has a place, and obviously soon to be Hall of Famer for NASCAR.
No, absolutely. And you look at what he did in the mid-'90s right there. From, I think it was 96 to about 98, he won 10 races a year. 98, he won 13 races. I don't think we're ever going to see that again in racing in general, because that's unheard of these days.
I don't think it'll be. We will see that, and if there is a driver, just first of all, there's too much competition. The playing field's too level. There's too much parity. So many great drivers out there. You look at Dale Earnhardt Jr. Look at Jimmy Johnson's there, Brad Keselowski, Logano, Carl Edwards. I mean, Kenseth. The Busch brother. I mean, there's just so much talent across the sport. How do you do that? I mean, I thought winning 4 races this year for him, or 6 or more for the Penske guys was incredibly impressive. And the irony is, none of those guys that won all those races got a chance to compete for the championship. And it all came down to points and what was, I think, maybe the best chase we've ever had in terms of the drama down to the final event and the final laps.
And turning our attention to the chase here, you look at it, I mean, I was talking to most of the drivers who were in the chase, and a lot of them think it's not so much you have to win, it's about what you do in the chase and consistently being in the top 5. You don't have to go out there and rack off a win in every round. You just had to go out there and just survive it, more or less.
Well, I mean, and Ryan Newman proved that. Ryan Newman proved that if you can run consistently in the top 4, 5, or 6 and hang on, I mean, you can have bad pit stops. You can struggle in the race and fall back, but as long as you get back and get up on the wheel and drive it. But it is very, very stressful. I literally, in all my years of motorsports, have never seen you could cut the tension and the stress in the garage area, with a knife. And from the time they checked in on Thursday till the time they left on Sunday night, the pressure was on the crew people, the drivers, the car owners, the crew chiefs could hardly breathe on Sunday morning when you go in to talk to them. This is before the race even starts, because they know they've got to make the right call. And you can't lose points. You can't lose positions. Pit stops are critical. A lug nut, a car falling off the jack, pitting too early, speeding on pit road. That's all it takes. I mean, making that cut in the chase from segment to segment could be no more than just having cutting a tire on the racetrack, or having a wheel roll away during a pit stop. It's just that close. So I think that it's going to be hard for anyone to dominate the sport. I mean, there's young drivers coming along. I think Kyle Larson next year is going to be a major factor, and I think young Larson could win 2 or 3 or 4 races, if not. I mean, he's the next big talent to come along, and behind him, of course, Chase Elliott, I think, may be the most talented driver in terms of stock car experience we've seen come along since possibly a Kyle Busch or a Jeff Gordon.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Those are 2 young drivers that you definitely have to keep your eye on. And you look at 2015, who was your early favorite going into Speed Weeks to not only win the 500 but win the championship overall? Who do you have your eye on?
I would say Carl Edwards. I simply think that Carl Edwards making the move that he made to Joe Gibbs, you look at what Matt Kenseth did, coming from Jack Roush, and wins his first year. He wins 7 races. He wins more races than anybody. He has a chance to win the championship. I think Carl is another driver who knows he's got a world of talent, and he loved Jack Roush. He loved his time with Jack Roush and is so appreciative of Jack Roush's opportunities. But because of where Roush Fenway was competitively right now, they're going to get back. But where they were right now, he made the move to Joe Gibbs. He saw what his teammate Kenseth did, almost winning a championship. I think Carl Edwards will go there and win 5 races or more and contend for the title.
No, I have to agree with you on that. He's going to follow the same path that Kenseth did a few years ago. And a lot of people, kind of say, well, you look at all the guys who started with their careers at Jack Roush, driving for Jack Roush, rather. They left Jack Roush and then they found almost success immediately. Do you think that in some weird way Jack is holding some of his drivers back, or do you think that just for some reason things aren't clicking over at Roush Fenway?
Well, I think they think they're aware that they are behind and that they're working really hard, and I think Steve Newmark is the president of Roush, and he understands that they needed to make some major changes, and they are quietly going about making personnel changes and upgrading their computer sim technology and everything about it. I mean, the engines are good. The engines are, the Roush Yates engines. Doug Yates motors are the same motors that are going in the Penske cars that are winning races. It's the engineering technology and some of the people that needed, I think, some help. And so they're going about making that better so that, Greg Biffle or, Ricky Stenhouse. I mean, here's Stenhouse, a two-time Nationwide Series champion. He hasn't been able to do much over there, and that's not because he doesn't know how to drive. Trevor Bain. I mean, they owe it to their guys. They're not going to be able to hang on to them long if they don't get it better, and I believe they will. But I think they've been behind, and unfortunately, as talented as Carl Edwards or Matt Kenseth was, they couldn't make it up, in the race car because the technology wasn't there.
And we're talking with Dr. Jerry Punts, ESPN NASCAR analyst. You look at it, you look at Jack Roush, he's getting older. I mean, he got into that plane accident a few years ago, and, we were all so glad to see him recover from that. But you got to think, how much longer is he going to do this? How much longer is he going to be involved with his team in NASCAR? We heard rumblings about a month ago or so that Doug Yates was possibly in line to take over that team and purchase out that team. Do you think that that's something that's going to happen down the line, or do you think Jack's just going to keep doing this for the rest of his life?
I think this is Jack's life. Motorsports has always been in automobiles. He's an engineer. He loves being able to create something that can go out on the track and beat other people. So I don't see Jack, walking away. But what I do see is him embracing some of the people like a Doug Yates and others and Steve Newmark that have come in there that can help get him back to where he needs to be. Engineers understand that I can do so much, but these are my limitations, and so I need to understand what I'm limited to doing and what I need to make my program better, and that's exactly what he's done. I think Doug Yates, I don't know about buying the organization. I think Doug will be a major player there, and I think he will help them understand that they need to get back to another level, as is Steve Newmark. I don't see Jack, going away. I think it just strengthens the team when you bring those people in and have them, and also others that are coming in and saying, okay, let's look at every single portion, chassis dynamics. Let's look at, how the cars are constructed. Let's look at how the simulation technology is done. Because that changes daily almost. And if you don't have the latest simulation that you can put on these cars, and you can't go out and take that information off in practice and put it in there, when it comes race time, you're behind, which is what we saw with Roush Fenway as compared to Penske. But I don't see Jack Roush going anywhere. I think he'll take his last breath sitting on that pit box or standing in the garage area, because that's his life. That's exactly where he needs to be.
I think that's what we all want to do someday. That's Dr. Jerry Punch from ESPN. Dr. Punch, thank you so much for joining us today. Really, really enjoyed having you on.
My pleasure. Always good to be on with you. I look forward to what should be a fabulous 2015 season.
Absolutely. You take care, sir. We'll talk to you down the road in 2015.
Thanks again.
That was awesome. I mean, seriously, I truly love that man. He's one of the best, if not the best, at what he does, and he knows this sport better than anyone else alive. I don't care what anybody tells me. That made my week. Love him so much. Thank you to ESPN for helping us set that up. And listen, a lot of stuff right there. Obviously, everything with Jeff Gordon and just everything with Carl Edwards getting ready for 2015. I do agree with him. I do think that Carl Edwards will do very, very well. We're going to see what Carl has. One season he rattled off almost 8 wins. I think he's capable of that in 2015. I truly do. I think that everything that's going on over at Joe Gibbs Racing points me to indicate that they can have a championship season with one of their 4 drivers, and I think that Carl's just going to go set the world on fire over there. I truly do. We'll see what happens. We'll take a very, very very short break. We'll come back with Throwback Thursday real quick, and then we'll recap everything that's going on with Jeff Gordon and talk about a couple of other things going on in and around the world of motorsports. Don't go anywhere. You're shifting gears right here on ARN.
Sick of bad race coverage or none at all from those other networks? Make ARN your one and only for all things motorsports. ARN, the Motorsports Authority.
I present to you 3 of the fiercest subjects ever assembled in the cage of doom. First, the brain-wrenching behemoth Algebra 2, weighing in at a mind-boggling 800 pounds. Foreign languages! The multilingual international sensation capable of tossing you clear across the Atlantic. And finally, biology. More ferocious than formaldehyde, she'll dissect you 1 chromosome at a time. Who among you will step up to their challenge?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Me too.
I'm in.
Sign me up.
Take on the tough classes now. You need them to prepare for college. Find out which classes you need at knowhowtogo.org.
Brought to you by the American Council on Education, Lumina Foundation for Education, and the Ad Council.
Throwback Thursday
on ARN.
And a day that admittingly has been extremely NASCAR heavy, what with Jeff Gordon announcing his retirement after the 2015 season, we have to just go ahead and continue the trend on ARN and go ahead and give the Throwback Thursday today to Jeff Gordon, in particular, this Jeff Gordon memory. You go back to 1993, his rookie season, winless. 7 top 5 finishes in 1993, and he got pretty darn close to actually winning a couple races, but never knocked the door down. Fast forward to his sophomore year in 1994, and guess what? He knocked off a couple of pretty big wins, and just so happened to be that the first one was the Coca-Cola 600. We now take you back to that race, courtesy of our friends back in the day in 1994 at TBS.
Jeff Gordon seeking his first Winston Cup victory. Set on the pole. It's been a long time since anyone has sat on the pole and won the 600. White flag, 1 to go. Coming around the Daytona 500 winner, Sterling Marlin. Looking up Jimmy Spencer just in front of him. Boy, this is a moment. He's diving along. Set on the pole at 181.439. He will become only the 5th driver in 35 years to win the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, North Carolina from the pole. Checkers are out, and they are down, and it is Jeff Gordon victorious this evening on this Memorial Weekend at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Now I told him nothing wrong.
You're in good company.
No, they did the right thing. I wouldn't have took a chance on it, but they did.
Earnhardt up to congratulate him.
He's shaking his fist at him. No, not really.
He'll reach you hard, but I'll tell you, he did a good job, and Gordon did it splendidly.
I think everybody knew that he was going to win, just didn't know when.
And yes, that voice you heard was Richard Petty, who, by the way, retired in 1992, which just so happened to be Jeff Gordon's very first race. Very big race in Atlanta in 1992, but that's for another day. We take you back into Victory Lane for a very emotional Jeff Gordon.
I'm speechless, man. I mean, this is the greatest day of my life. I don't know what to say. I mean, you know, it's a wonderful feeling, but I owe so much to this crew. I told everybody we weren't going to be fast at the beginning, and we'd be there when it got dark and the lights came on. It's exactly what this thing did. You know, this car's named after my fiance Brooke, and love her very much. And this is just, I mean, unbelievable feeling. But you know, I got to thank Rick Hendrick, Chevrolet, DuPont especially. But this crew, I mean, they made that decision. I just drove the wheels off of it, but I didn't have to drive it too hard because they just did such an excellent job in the pits. Man, that's what wins races, being smart, being there all day. We've been so unlucky lately. This is the only way to make it all worthwhile.
Well, they've said you've had the sophomore jinx all season. I know you wanted to put that behind you. You've done it tonight. You won one of the biggest races of all time.
We don't believe in jinx, you know. We just felt like things were happening that we had no control over, and we just kept working hard and working hard. Had team meetings to get our morale back up. Man, we're ready to win some more now. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, it just kind of picked up from there for Jeff Gordon. It's your Throwback Thursday for January 22nd, 2015. And you go from that to this. Jeff Gordon making the announcement earlier today that he will retire from full-time NASCAR racing in after the 2015 season. So somebody asked him, Jeff, what does retirement mean for you? And Jeff, what are you doing in 2016? He responded with this.
The way I see myself in the world is that, you know, retirement means you go off to a beach somewhere, or, you know, sit in a rocking chair on the front porch and drink your coffee and pet your dog, and, you know, that's not me. You know, I plan on working. You know, I'm going to be working. I'm actually going to have to get a real job now. You know, so when I think of retirement, I just don't think that that's what I'm doing. I want to leave myself open as well to be able to get in a car. It doesn't have to be a Cup car. It could be a Nationwide car. It could be a truck. It could be you know, a prototype for Le Mans or the Rolex. It might not be any of those things. Heck, I was just out in the desert driving buggies, and kind of made me want to do the Baja 1000. You know, I don't plan on doing any racing, but I know I'm not going to be retiring because I have a lot on my plate already that we have plans for and we'll be talking about in the future. But I'm excited about that. I really am.
Truly, I mean, who knows? We might see him run the Baja 1000 next year, not in 2015. He's going to be racing at Texas, I believe, is the same weekend. So that's going to be happening. But it's truly something for you to stop and go, wow. And I'm looking at a picture of his rookie year back in 1992. Baby Ruth Ford. Remember that? Yeah. He had the awesome mullet and the mustache, and I love it. And you look at him then, and you look at him now. Obviously, he's aged, but I'll say this in his defense, not much. He looks extremely similar. Extremely similar. It's a little freaky, actually. But no, Jeff Gordon retiring at the end of the 2015 season. It's a story we're going to follow all year long here on ARN. Now, I want to remind you, I know we talked heavy NASCAR here. What can I say? It's kind of a big story, and yeah, I kind of went a little along with Jerry Punch, but you know what? I love the guy. He's so cool. If you want to check out more about Jeff Gordon's retirement, if you want to learn more about Brian Vickers' condition and what the prognosis is for him and exactly what Michael Waltrip Racing will do for the Daytona 500 and for the race at Atlanta, the first two races of the 2015 season, you can log on to ARN Race. Also, John Force commenting on what the crew chief lineup will look like at his stables. Also, the NASCAR haulers, we'll talk about that next week. Ken Roczen looking to really keep up the momentum. He won Anaheim 2 over the weekend. You can go ahead and log on to ARNRace.com for that as well. Lots of stories up on ARNRace.com, including the interview I had with Jerry Punch. Lots of stuff. You can check out the GoPro videos from Ken Roczen, Ken Roczen's victories in Anaheim in 2015 as well. Also, the animated track map of Oakland this weekend. Good luck to everybody involved. Also, the Trey Kennard and Chad Reed incident at Anaheim 2. Also, Justin Brayton, his update going on, coming into this weekend. We'll get the updates up on ARNRace.com. What's going on with the 24 Hours at Daytona, AJ Foyt coming out of the hospital. Rocky Boots extending their partnership with Don Schumacher. Everything that happened at that Don Schumacher racing test earlier this week. Also, Jim Dunn signing with AO Drink as their primary sponsor. Everything that happened with Robbie Gordon in the Dakar Rally. You name it, it's up on ARNRace.com. And I do want to implore you that you can actually start to download Shifting Gears up on iTunes now. Actually, just keyword search Shifting Gears or ARN. You can also download the Pit Pass up on iTunes as well right now. So you could just go ahead and set it to your iPhone, your iPad, whatever, and it'll go ahead and just download automatically. I highly highly encourage you to try that out. It's very, very cool. That's something that's pretty cool. So coming up next week on the show, lots of stuff that we're going to cover next week, actually. We're going to get back into Supercross. I promise it's going to be a Supercross heavy show. We're going to talk about a lot of things in and out of the motorsports world. Want to thank ESPN and Dr. Jerry Punch for coming on the program today. Jeff Gordon retiring after 2015. Your calls, emails, tweets at the Alan Bailey, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Use the hashtag ARNRace. Also, the phone number, you can leave us a message or send us a text anytime you want. 720-600-RACE. 720-600-7223. Standard messaging rates apply. For everybody here at the American Racing Network and at the Shifting Gears Racing Studio here in Southern California, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.
You've been listening to the American Racing Network, a turn for media company. This is ARN, the Motorsports Authority.